Billy Napier and the Florida Gators have done a good job of adding transfer portal impact players this year. We're going to talk about that here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you watch on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I almost said it yesterday, but today I'm actually right when I say it. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And today we're going to talk about 3 of the 4 Florida Gators transfer portal players. Chimere Dike, the wide receiver from Wisconsin, is the one that we're not talking about too much. It's not that I'm like, oh, he's not going to. I do think he's going to make an impact. He's just not on the docket for today. We are going to start with Joey Slackman, defensive lineman out of Penn. And to me, I've said it before, and I will say it again. To me, this is one of the biggest possible ads Florida could have had. Because you look at who hits the portal, a lot of the big hype goes around quarterbacks, and Florida, with Graham Mertz, was never going to make a move for a big name QB in this portal cycle. However, Joey Slackman, when he hit the portal, was a huge defensive name to hit there, or just a hugely sought after defensive name. Obviously, a ton of fans didn't really know who he is because, believe it or not, Ivy League football is not watched a ton. Who would have thought about that? Like, that's so weird. Who would have thought that the Ivy League is not primetime television week in and week out? But Joey Slackman is a big time player. He's a Power 5 football player. He's an SEC football player, and he quite possibly is going to be an NFL football player. So for me, yeah, he's coming from Penn, but and that's the hard part about evaluating with some of these guys too, is that when you come from a place like Penn, you're dominating them because they're the Ivy League and you're a potential NFL player. And there's very few of those in the Ivy League. Every year there's Ivy League football players that are NFL caliber. But the guys that are NFL caliber dominate there. And that's what Joey Slackman did, where you can say, okay, maybe he's just overpowering them. His technique was where you can see, okay, that's what's going to possibly get into the NFL. He's a day one. I'm going to say day one impact player. I do think he's a day one starter. But even if he's not in the starting lineup, which again, I think he will be, even if he's not, he's going to be the first rotational defensive player or first rotational defensive lineman. I think that when you talk about what we've talked about so frequently with improving this defense, improving this defensive line, improving this pass rush, and we've talked about Princely Umanmielen, and we talked about that a good bit yesterday as well. The way to replace Princely Umanmielen is not to just get a jack player that can replicate his production. If you can do that, awesome. But the true way to replace Princely Umanmielen and improve your defense is to make the players around that jack spot better, because so much of the pressure for the Florida Gators came from Princely or on blitzes. Whether that was freeing up someone for a free run at the QB, whether that was just sending more people, whatever it was blitzing and Princely. And if you completely neutralize Princely, then all you had to worry about was the blitz, in which case against Florida's defense, you could just get the ball out quickly and you'll find some success there. We saw Spencer Rattler do that, where he legitimately just chucked it when the blitz came right in, and he just chucked it, and they won the jump ball because Florida's DBs were not good at making a play on the ball. But adding someone like Joey Slackman, that's how you take that step towards, okay, improve the rest of the defensive line unit, and the pass rush will free up. Cam Jackson is a non-factor as a pass rusher. And that's not It's not a good thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because he's a nose tackle. Like, he's not expected to contribute much. If he was as good against the run as he is, because Cam Jackson is very good against the run, and he was a decent pass rusher, he'd be in the NFL. Like, he'd be in the NFL. He probably would never even come from Memphis to Florida. He probably would have just gone straight to the NFL. But he does need to improve his pass rush if he wants to be a day 2 pick, because right now he's looking late day 3 if he were to declare here. And unless he makes significant improvement as a pass rusher, not really expecting him to do, not expecting him to improve his draft stock that much, just because the position doesn't really demand that. But I do think that adding Joey Slackman gives you a improved starting defensive line, because again, I do think he'll be a starter, but it also gives you better rotational options, because the second best pass rusher on the team last year was Caleb Banks, which Joey Slackman's probably going to take that job, because Joey Slackman said, hey, they see me as the big end, which the big end here is that 3-tech spot that Caleb Banks played, which is really a defensive tackle, but it's technically an end. So Joey Slackman's probably going to take that job. So on early downs, you'll have Joey Slackman and Cam Jackson, which I think Slackman will give you a better pass rushing threat than Caleb Banks, and probably a better run defender. I wasn't impressed with what Caleb Banks did defending the run last year. But also, in obvious passing situations now, you could play Caleb Banks at the nose where Cam Jackson played, and play Joey Slackman at that big end, that big end spot that I hate calling it big end, but that's what they like to call it. Playing that big end spot, that now you've got your second best pass rusher from last year, your best returning pass rusher, and Joey Slackman, your big transfer portal ad on the interior. And that gives you an actual pass rushing threat from the interior on passing situations. Again, I'm not saying just obvious passing situations as in, oh, we got them in 3rd and 8. I mean, late in the game, when you're up and the other team has to throw themselves back into it, you put them in and you just go, hey, pin your ears back and get after them. And so you kind of open things up there. I also think an overlooked part about improving this defensive front with a guy like Joey Slackman is that improved defensive line play will improve linebacker play, especially when you look at Florida's linebackers. Because Florida's linebackers in 2023 were not good at deconstructing blocks. They were at their best when they got free runs into lanes, which, players are good when they're not blocked. However, when you have Cam Jackson, Joey Slackman in front of your linebackers, it's going to improve linebacker play, because so much of playing linebacker is, and by so much, I mean about 20% of playing linebacker, is the guys in front of you make your job easier. They don't get blown off of their line. They have their gap integrity there, and they hold their spot, and you got to get to your run fit. Because a nuanced part of playing football, linebacker, whatever, on defense is your run fits. Because I get it, a lot of it just looks like, oh, linebacker, chase ball, tackle player. But so much of your run fits are, in this play, my run fit is that B gap. When they give me this look, my run fit is between that guard and tackle right there. That's my run fit. Like, I have to secure that gap and stuff it so that if they try to run through there, I'm there to make a play. And if they want to run through there and they see me there, maybe they redirect to someone else. But it's a team effort. Like, playing run defense is a team effort. Playing linebacker is a team effort, because you need the guys in front of you to have their gap integrity, and in coverage, you need the guys behind you to, or not even just in coverage, because in run defense, you need them to be flying down so that when you fill your gap, they come make a play. But also in coverage, you need to be able to trust the guys behind you there so that you could pass off a route. So I think adding Joey Slackman improves your entire defense by improving one position directly, but indirectly, it improves everything that your defense can do. So Joey Slackman, to me, is not just for Florida, but just in the entire Power 5 level at the SEC in college football. I think Joey Slackman is one of the biggest non-QB transfers that we've seen this year and probably that we will see this year. And again, this is just me based on watching Joey Slackman. I'm very high on what he put on film. So I like Joey Slackman. I'm going to be very happy with the addition. And I could be this would be based on my evaluation. I could be wrong. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect. But based on my evaluation of Joey Slackman, you're looking at a day one big time impact player that's going to improve your entire defensive unit. And we're going to talk about Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson next, who improves your entire offense, obviously, because he improves the offensive line and games are won and lost in the trenches. Before we talk about Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, a quick word from LinkedIn. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by LinkedIn. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with, which, I mean, for football, incredibly relevant, right? Improve the defensive tackle spot, the big end spot, improve your run defense. As a coach, you're only as good as, let's say if you're Billy Napier, your DC hire, your OC hire, whoever it may be, whatever that may be. A lot of parallels, right? LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than a billion with a B, billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. And hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. That's pretty impressive, right? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And the next name that we're talking about is Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, who is, of course, offensive tackle from San Diego State, started games at both left and right tackle last year. Obviously, not at the same time, but started at both left and right tackle last year. And this is another one where you improve your entire side of the ball by improving that one position. Because for Florida, your offensive line play in 2023 was nothing short of freaking horrendous. It was disgusting. And I'm not a huge offensive line scheme guy or offensive line play guy. I'm still actively trying to improve that. But, oh my goodness, the tackle play was sickening. Your offensive tackles, and I'm just going to be blunt with it. Your offensive tackles in 2023 played like absolute dog crap. It was bad. They sucked in 2023. They didn't put out good film in any way, shape, or form. And I know that Damian George takes like the blunt of the criticism. He's there just taking all the criticism. Austin Barber in 2023 was terrible as well. He regressed big time from 2022 when he was a rotational player. And I've said, I think he's just not a left tackle. I just don't think he's that guy. He's not that guy, pal. I don't think he's a starter quality left tackle. Doesn't mean he can't be at right tackle, which for me, adding Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, that's where we're looking for. That's the tackle combination that I think Florida rolls out on in week 1 against Miami. I think we see Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson at left tackle, assuming everybody's healthy. Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson at left tackle, Austin Barber at right tackle. Because again, Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson played both left and right tackle, started at both spots, and throughout the entire 2023 season allowed a grand total of 9 pressures. 9. Florida starting tackles in Austin Barber and Damian George. If you've watched this show or if you've listened to the show when we've talked about this, you know the number. Probably. I've said it a lot. 45 combined. That's including Austin Barber missing 1 or 2 games. That's including Damian George getting hurt and rotating. 45. Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson allowed 9. That's a pretty stark difference, and I understand. Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson played in the Mountain West. You can kind of take that and go, all right, well, he wasn't playing against SEC players. That's true. But again, we're looking at the film, and like I've said, I'm not this elite offensive line guy. That's not really that's not my bread and butter. But Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, better than what you had at tackle. I think he's a starter quality tackle. Also, important to talk about how when he played Pac-12 teams, because they play or Pac-12, do we still call them Pac-12 or do we call them like Big Ten or whatever they're moving to? It was UCLA and Oregon State in 2023. In those games, he had 139 total snaps played. He had about 90 pass blocking snaps and allowed 3 pressures against Power 5 opponents. 3 pressures in those 2 games, which 3 pressures in 2 games against Power 5 opponents isn't amazing. It sure as hell is better than what Florida had, where they averaged, 45 pressures. So 45 divided by 12 games played. They averaged 4 pressures per game. He allowed 3 in the 2 games, which is 1.5 pressures. So improvement, right? Also important to talk about how he did that against UCLA. He allowed 2 pressures, I think it was. That's against Latu, who had 64 pressures on the year, and Gabriel Murphy had 61, and Grayson Murphy had 52. You hear that's a lot of pressure numbers there. Like those are a ton of pressures. And Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson held his own. So he improves your play at tackle. He improves your play on the interior too, especially if you look at Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson at one tackle spot, Austin Barber at the other, maybe Damian George at guard now that Micah Mazuka's gone. Maybe it's Najee Harris. Either way, your guards will have to help less at tackle. And also, I want to say that I'm not opposed to the idea of Florida going, all right, we're going to look into the transfer portal and take the best offensive lineman we can get. If that's at guard, then we improve our guard play with Micah Mazuka gone. If that's at tackle, we take him and we just go, okay, the best 2 of these 3 tackles will start for us between Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, Austin Barber, and whoever else we add. Because again, I understand that so many people love Austin Barber. I get it. You need improved tackle play if you're Florida. Because this is an offense, until an offensive coordinator is hired or announced, we're going to go with this is the offense. Even if an offensive coordinator is hired, it's still going to be very similar. This is an offense where you need strong offensive line play. Florida has not had that in 2023. In 2022, it was good, not great, but good. And you desperately need to improve there. The last player they were talking about is Trikweze Bridges, who is someone that I think a lot of people kind of, I don't know, it felt to me like once he hit the portal, Florida was an immediate, like, I don't know, it just felt like once he hit the portal, everyone was like, okay, Florida's the easiest landing spot for him. Like the second he hit the portal, or the second Florida made contact, it was like, okay, Florida's leading for Trikweze Bridges, which I'm cool with. I have no problem with at all. I'm a fan of his. Did not start at Oregon, which I've said multiple times, and we've talked about 2 guys already in this show. When you're looking at the transfer portal, what I want is group of 5 starters looking to take the step up, or power 5 starters looking to either take the step up to the SEC, just be closer to home, chase a bag. I truly, frankly, genuinely don't care what their reasoning is if they're power 5 starters. Trikweze Bridges was not a power 5 starter. However, I'm not as annoyed with it as someone that would be a power 5 backup coming to Florida and then me going, okay, they're going to step in and start, for 2 main reasons. One, Trikweze Bridges played safety in high school, was recruited as a safety, moved to cornerback because Oregon needed him there. Oregon needed help at corner, and he moved to corner because he was needed there. He is going to play safety at Florida. So for me, I'm like, okay, he is a safety that moved to corner and is moving back to safety. So he wasn't a starter. He's moving and changing positions, which is why that's the part that doesn't concern me more. But that's why I don't chalk it as, oh, a Power 5 backup, because he's changing positions to what is his natural position. And so for me, I'm like, all right, he's changing positions. That's the bigger projection for me, not just going from backup to starter. Like that's it. And that's the other thing. He's not going from backup to starter. He might, but he's going to Florida to play safety. And I'm not sure he's going to start for Florida. Like if you add a depth guy that was at Oregon, maybe that's what we look at. I know that a lot of people talk about him playing star. I'm not saying that he can't, but in his 3 years at Oregon, he played 41 snaps in the slot. Or I guess more than that, technically, if you consider when he played kind of box safety, and it is like not the slot, but kind of the slot in that Oregon defense, similar to how Florida has two safeties on the field, and one of them tends to come down into the box or tends to come down and cover a slot if there's two receivers on each side, or a receiver and a tight end on one side, two receivers on the other, whatever it may be. But I do think that Trikweze Bridges is someone that I look at as can contribute in 2024 in multiple ways. I think that you look at safety first, because I think that's where he's best suited to play. He's certainly not an outside corner. Like I understand the need for an outside corner is why he moved out there. I don't think he was good at that at all, which makes sense why he was a backup. But I just don't think he was suited to play there. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. But I think he's much better suited to play safety, even more than star. Like he can play star, but I'm not going to be super confident about him playing star. But if you look at safety, I think you've got a better case made there, because I think you're looking at him as one of your top 3 safeties in 2024, where I think Jordan Castell starts for Florida. There's no reason he shouldn't start at safety. He played decently well, and he improved as the year went on. And then he kind of hit that like freshman wall. Once you hit too many snaps, I feel like you see someone hit the freshman wall. And Jordan Castell pretty much hit like 500 and just kind of stagnated there, which again happens a ton. But Jordan Castell, I think, is going to be a starter next year at safety for the Florida Gators as well. Miguel Mitchell hit the portal. RJ Moten underwhelmed wildly, just was not good in 2023. Kamari Wilson didn't play and hit the portal. You look at who you still have, it's Bryce Thornton and Jordan Castell. Those are your guys. And I think that when you look at Bryce Thornton, he made some strides. I think the Vanderbilt game for him was a point where he kind of, I think looking at the Vanderbilt game for Bryce Thornton was kind of his best game of the year. He never really replicated it. I think that was truly just his best game of the year. Played aggressive, was decisive, and just firing down for the ball. But I think that you could look at Bryce Thornton as playing safety 3, and then look at Trikweze Bridges being the pair with Jordan Castell. Bryce Thornton is also relatively undersized, 5'10", 204, but he's smart, I'll say that. And in college and in high school, he moved around quite a bit. We saw him play a little bit in the slot in 2023. Maybe you look to play him there more long-term. Like if I'm looking at the current safety room, and I'm not saying Florida's going to play a safety at star next year. They played Jaden Hill there at corner, and he was a corner, and they moved him down to star. I'm not saying Florida's going to go with a safety at star in 2024. I'm not saying the current starting star is on the roster. Maybe it is Shreve Denson at corner. But if you're going to go with a safety there, and your main options are Trikweze Bridges, Jordan Castell, Bryce Thornton, and just for shiggles, we'll throw RJ Moten in there. I'm most comfortable with Bryce Thornton playing there. Like, I'm not saying I think that he can do it rotationally. I don't think he should be the starter there. But if Bryce Thornton is going to play star for Florida, maybe, or if you're going to play a safety at star for Florida, I think Bryce Thornton is your best option, better than Trikweze Bridges, better than Jordan Castell. And I also think having Trikweze Bridges and Jordan Castell as your too high safety look, 6'2", 6'3", really helps your cornerbacks when they do have to press out wide. I think you're looking at the best possible combination there. So I think what Trikweze Bridges really brings, versatility, just not in the fact that, or not in the sense that he can play multiple spots, but that you kind of get more versatility with your rotations. Similar to Joey Slackman, how you can play him at, I think you can play him at that big end 3-tech spot that they call, but also you can play him at the F, the strong side end, and have Caleb Banks at the 3-tech with Cam Jackson at nose. Or you can have Joey Slackman at the 3-tech with Caleb Banks at the nose and whoever at F and Jack. And you can kind of have a bunch of combinations. I think Trikweze Bridges brings that to the table for Florida as well. Like, I don't think his value is just, oh, he's a good football player. I think his value is he can play multiple spots and give you a variety of looks and a variety of position groups that, or a variety of players that you can put on the field at once. And I think that's where the true value is for Trikweze Bridges coming in. So again, he wasn't a starter at the Power 5 level. That doesn't bother me as much because I'm not sure he's going to be a starter for Florida. However, he's an experienced defensive back that's joining a very, very inexperienced secondary. And I'll take that 10 times out of 10. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We will be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole 9 Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And as always, I'll see you all tomorrow.